All right, so in last week's video, I let everyone know that I was a little bit limited in my training because I was in the middle of rehabbing an injured shoulder. And then a couple of you reached out and asked if I could give you some tips into rehabbing your own shoulders. And I'll be honest, like all I do whenever I mess up my shoulder, or any part of my body really for that matter, is I just take it easy for a little bit and then I just try to build back into all of the things that I was already doing for my training. But having said all that, I still feel like I have a pretty unique perspective on the function and just general training of the shoulder for both health and performance. So I thought this would just be a really good opportunity to go through my whole training system, especially with respect to the shoulder, and just talk about all the things that I do that I feel like contribute to healthy, strong, and mobile shoulders. And so whether your shoulders are completely healthy and you're just trying to increase their overall performance, or maybe you've got some dodgy shoulders and you're looking to get them a little bit better, these would be all the strategies that I use for both of those situations. Obviously, you've just got to scale it appropriately for yourself, but I'll try to throw in some tips for all that stuff as well. But yeah, to me, training and rehab, it's two sides of the same coin. Rehab is just training for people who are a little bit more sore, have a little bit more symptoms, their performance might be suffering temporarily. So it's just scaled training, but it's all the same principles at the end of the day. Now the shoulder is a little bit of a unique joint. It's the most mobile joint we have in the body. And because of this, I think it's led to some sort of weird training ideas about the shoulder joint itself, like big focus on, a lot of people always trying to create shoulder stability by just jamming their shoulder blades into their back pockets. And I think it sort of opens up an interesting conversation about like what the hell stability even is, especially in regards to the shoulder. In my view, all we're doing when we jam our shoulder blades down and back for every exercise, we're just stopping our shoulder blade from moving. And I can see how that can be interpreted as a stable shoulder, but then we can also have a stable shoulder that moves through space, and it's sort of stabilized dynamically by all these really big, strong muscles that attach to it, or maybe they're not that big and strong, but we can make them bigger and stronger, and then they just contribute to sucking the head of that humerus deeper and deeper into that shoulder joint so it doesn't fly off out of the socket, like if it was unstable, I guess. All right, so first things first, I want to give you a couple of pointers for what to do with your shoulder blades in your horizontal pushing and pulling exercises. Now, I think especially when it comes to your horizontal pushing exercises, a lot of people are always either cueing themselves or their clients into maximal shoulder retraction, so shoulder retraction, and then depression, so this back and down. And the justification for cueing the shoulder blades this way through our horizontal pressing is it creates a stable platform to press from. But again, I really believe in the ability of the shoulder blades to dynamically stabilize themselves. I'm also a big believer in some semblance of a natural scapulohumeral rhythm. So just trusting that if I stay focused on the task, so the task in this case being just pressing the dumbbells from here to here, my shoulder blades will do what they need to do. And there's a good chance that they might need to change position to maintain the best leverage in whatever muscle groups I'm trying to recruit. So yeah, there just is that little bit more faith in the body that it knows where my shoulder blade needs to be. And I'm not saying I just go into maximum protraction on every single rep. I'm still trying to keep my sternum nice and high so I get a great stretch of the pecs in my dumbbell bench press. And I find that just by focusing on keeping my sternum nice and high in my horizontal pressing, which I'll demonstrate in a second, it does a good enough job of controlling my range of motion and giving me that feeling of stability, but I still get this nice amount of natural scapulohumeral rhythm throughout the movement, which I think is really complementary to the muscle recruitment. Rather than going to war with my body, trying to press, feeling my shoulder blades wanting to move a bit and focusing more on that than actually completing the task, just doesn't seem right to me. And especially people always bitching and moaning about getting stiff shoulders from horizontal pressing. I'm not surprised when you're minimizing shoulder blade movement as much as possible rather than just focusing on the movement. So again, rocking back, getting into a nice position, keeping my sternum nice and high, but then just letting my shoulder blades do what they need to do. So I'm not gonna get any serious amount of protraction. It's gonna get a nice natural amount of shoulder blade movement, or I'm gonna let them move if they want to. And then when it comes to your horizontal rowing, I think most people are pretty on board with this whole idea of scapular freedom, so you can really, really move and train those upper back muscles that attach to the shoulder blade. But I think one of the things that people don't realize is just how much the shape or the position of your rib cage and spine is going to influence the amount of movement we have available there. So sort of talking about how we use this sternum up position to just maintain a little bit of retraction in our pressing movement. I'm not necessarily going to think about crunching my sternum down, but I'm just going to try to go into a little bit of thoracic flexion. I'm sort of thinking open up the back ribs and sort of stay long through the spine, and then that's going to give me just a little bit of extra movement and stretch through that upper back, which I think can be really nice to get the shoulder blades moving, because again, we don't really have that many positions where we're encouraged to train through a bit more thoracic flexion and protraction. Okay, so if I'm in this sternum up position, even when I'm letting my shoulder blades go, I don't get as much range of motion as if I just hunch over just a little bit. Like I said, it's this combination of sort of maintaining a little bit of length through the spine and just hunching and relaxing forward a little bit, and then just trying to breathe into your back and expand it even more. You see a lot of people really breathing and expanding through the belly. Sort of try to pull that in and get all the air into here, because it's just going to give you even more of a stretch and even more mobile shoulders. So reaching down to the ground and trying to get all that protraction. Milk it even, as Israel would say. So yeah, whether you're pushing or pulling horizontally, just try to think about setting yourself up with a nice axial skeleton shape. You don't need to think about locking down the shoulder blades. Even when you're going heavy, even when you're trying to limit the range of motion a little bit, again, you can just do that with a nice axial skeleton orientation rather than just, again, jamming the shoulder blades back constantly. It might seem like I'm really crapping on this idea of jamming the shoulders down and back. It's a good idea to do it sometimes, just that people do it for everything. So trying to give you some other options where not jamming them down and back will actually help you thrive, just to be clear. Okay, my other huge major key for maintaining strong, healthy and mobile shoulders is to do a little bit of gymnastics-based strength training to complement your traditional strength training. So when I stereotype traditional strength training, again, I sort of think about really valuing positions of spinal extension, especially a lot of thoracic extension, and again, retraction and depression of the shoulder blades. Whereas in gymnastics, you almost get the complete opposite. I would say majority of the positions require you to be a lot stronger in this flexed or this front compressed position and maintaining an open back of the rib cage, complemented with scapular protraction. The other thing that they'll often prioritize in a lot of these movements, which is pretty different to how I was lifting weights, is this idea of keeping the shoulder blades in a position of protraction while moving about the arms, which was really, really new and challenging to me, and absolutely blew up my serratus. I always find it's funny how people who do a lot of traditional strength training, they're always having to go out of their way to do a lot of isolated serratus work. If you introduce some gymnastic strength training, I promise you, your serratus and just your protraction strength as a whole will go through the roof. And it's, like I said, shoulders will feel amazing for it. So one of the best ways you can get into it, again, this is sort of what I call a gymnastics push-up. And all we're trying to do is start out fully protracted, a little bit of thoracic flexion, and then we're just gonna elbow bend our way through the movement. So again, I'm not squeezing my shoulder blades back, keep them open the whole time, and just tricep and serratus getting lit on fire with these. And again, just a lot of you will need to reset in between reps, take a big breath into that back, and then just staying in protraction and moving about the elbows. You can also sort of over time turn this into a bit of a pike push-up. So just trying to get a little bit more inverted. You can even elevate your feet to help you get into that. But so, I mean, I know push-ups aren't really like an elite gymnastics move, but I'll show you some other variations. So, because obviously even this like slightly flexed and more protracted push-up variation, we are sort of building into, what do you call it? Like a planche. You'll see, like, the whole reason I can't hold that planche position is because it's still not strong enough in flexion and protraction. So often what I'll do if I want to work on this more planche style maneuver is I'll set a band up in a squat rack and have it around my waist, and then that can just take off some of the load, or you can just do it like one at a time.
Just bringing up one leg so you still have a bit of a support leg, and then just seeing how light you can get on it.
One of my other favorite basic gymnastics moves to really strengthen that position of protraction and front compression is an L sit. So again, if you don't have parallettes, you can just use heavy dumbbells or heavy kettlebells, or if you're a real beast, you can even just do it off the ground. But essentially, my ability to maintain this position, let me get into it first. Like, yeah, there's a lot of core strength and front compression involved, but there's also this reaching aspect to it where if I push my shoulder blades back, I'm not going to be able to hold this position because I'm going to be here. I have to keep my shoulder blades open and push my rib cage back between my shoulder blades. Which, like I said, just builds strength in all these awkward positions that we're almost running away from whenever we've got a barbell or dumbbells in our hands a lot of the time. I've actually got a free program with 10 of my favorite progressions for gymnastics-based strength training, and you can get that from the show notes below. So check that out if you want a few more ideas of how you can get into some of that gymnastics-based strength training. My third favorite tip for getting a bit more scapular freedom and just strengthening your shoulder blades in a few more positions that are typically neglected by traditional strength training is to implement different reaches with your bicep and tricep training, or just your arm training in general. So one of my absolute go-tos is this squat curl with what we call a low reach. So again, even once you sort of take that scapular freedom pill, a lot of people are just sort of thinking about protraction and retraction here, like in push-ups and things like that, or might even get into some landmine presses with some high reaching. But I would say one of the most neglected reaches is this low reach. So staying in protraction, but keeping your arm sort of between 0 to 60 degrees of shoulder flexion. So this one is absolutely phenomenal for opening up the mid back. So we're just gonna sit here in this deep squat position, and you can see my femurs are actually pushing my rib cage back, so they're assisting with that protraction, and I'm just gonna stay in this low reach and curl away. Now, a lot of people will tell you if you chase two birds with any sort of exercise, you'll typically catch none, but with this one, it's just an insane bicep pump and a really nice mid upper back opener. So just tremendous for building strong mobile shoulders in that low protracted position. It's absolute money. All right, and the triceps obviously make up 60% of our arm mass, so we've got to work them into our magnificent shoulder routine as well. My go-to for that is dumbbell tape press. So again, staying in protraction, so you should feel upper back or the back of your ribs, not your shoulder blades on the bench. And then we're just gonna let the dumbbells fall in and slam into our pecs. We're just gonna reach back out again. So the bench is lava for the shoulder blades. You just wanna keep them off that thing, wrapped around your rib cage, and then just blasting the back of your arms. If you want to really take this to the next level on the eccentric, you can kind of take a big breath into your chest. Let's see if I can get my sternum to move. Ooh, sir. All right, but that one's sick. All right, so there you have it. If your shoulder mobility got cucked by traditional strength training, just sprinkle in a little bit of gymnastics-based strength training, get some reaches into your arm training, just generally valuing a little bit more scapular freedom in your traditional strength training. Not worrying so much, just trying to focus on the task rather than just perpetually ramming your shoulder blades into your back pocket. And who would have guessed that that makes your shoulders feel like $1 million? You know, just training them in all directions. It's pretty straightforward at the end of the day once you sort of zoom out a bit. Anyway, if you want to learn more about the way that we program strength training here at General Physical Preparation, obviously you can check out our GPP Level 1 course. It's got a bunch of pre-recorded lectures on all of our training concepts. Plus you also get ongoing access to me and the rest of the GPP coaches in the community through that private community that you'll gain access to, as well as weekly live calls. You get a sick exercise library with a bunch of narrated demonstrations of all the moves we like to use here with our clients at GPP, and yeah, I highly recommend you checking it out. And if not, I'll see you in a couple of days for another video. If you have any suggestions for something you'd like to see, just leave it down into the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.